പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ Repite muy poco, Irma. Repite muy fuiste.
Welcome to our channel. Today, we delve into a heart-wrenching true crime story that shocked Greece and the world. This is the tragic tale of Caroline Crouch, a young woman whose life was brutally cut short in a crime that initially seemed like a home invasion, but turned out to be something far more sinister. This case, filled with deception, manipulation, and tragic loss, serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that can lie hidden within our own homes. Caroline Crouch was a 20-year-old woman with a bright future ahead of her. Born in the United Kingdom to a British father and a Filipino mother, Caroline was known for her vibrant personality, her love for animals, and her adventurous spirit. She moved to Greece at a young age and quickly adapted to life there, blending her multicultural background with her new environment. Caroline was not just any young woman. She was a daughter, friend, and eventually a mother. Her friends described her as someone full of life, with an infectious smile and a passion for living life to the fullest. She was also an avid athlete, practicing kickboxing and other sports, showcasing her strength and determination. This strong-willed nature, however, would later stand in stark contrast to the vulnerability she experienced in her personal life. In her late teens, Caroline met Babis Anagnostopoulos, a handsome and seemingly charming helicopter pilot. Babis, who was several years older than Caroline, appeared to be the perfect match for her. He was well-educated, a stable career, and seemed to adore Caroline. The couple quickly fell in love, and their relationship blossomed. In 2019, they got married in a small, intimate ceremony, marking the beginning of what appeared to be a fairy tale life. Caroline and Babis settled in Nera, a quiet suburb of Athens. They soon welcomed a daughter into the world, adding another layer of joy to their lives. On the surface, they seemed like the perfect family, happy, loving, and successful. However, beneath this idyllic facade, there were dark undercurrents that would eventually lead to a horrific tragedy. The events of May 11, 2021 would forever change the lives of those who knew Caroline, would shock the entire nation of Greece. That morning, the peaceful neighborhood of Nera was shattered by a horrifying crime. Babis Anagnostopoulos called the police, voice trembling with fear and desperation. He reported that their home had been invaded by robbers who had brutally murdered his wife, Caroline, while he was tied up and helpless. According to Babis, the intruders had broken into their home in the early hours of the morning. They were masked and armed, he claimed, and they threatened him and Caroline, demanding money and valuables. Babis described how the robbers had tied him up in a chair, rendering him unable to protect his wife or their infant daughter. He recounted in chilling detail how the intruders had suffocated Caroline in front of him, leaving him to listen helplessly as she struggled for her life. The news of the brutal murder of a young mother in her own home sent shockwaves through the community and the nation. Caroline's death was not just another crime. It was an atrocity that struck at the heart of what many considered to be a safe and peaceful area. The image of Babis as a grieving husband, holding his infant daughter while mourning the loss of his beloved wife, was seared into the minds of the public. The outpouring of grief and sympathy was overwhelming, with people from all over Greece expressing their condolences and outrage at the senselessness of the crime. In the immediate aftermath of Caroline's murder, the Greek police launched an extensive investigation, treating the case as a home invasion gone tragically wrong. Babis's account of the events was detailed and convincing. He described how the robbers had broken into their home through a basement window, how they had disabled the security cameras, and how they had taken a large sum of money from a hidden compartment in the house. Babis even provided details about the robbers' accents, their behavior, and the way they had communicated with each other during the attack. The police worked tirelessly to track down the supposed intruders. They conducted door-to-door interviews in the neighborhood, reviewed security footage from nearby homes, and even offered a substantial reward for any information leading to the arrest of the media closely followed the investigation, with news outlets broadcasting updates on the case around the clock. Image of Babis as a devastated husband and father was reinforced in every report, painting a picture of a man who had been through unimaginable trauma. However, as the investigation progressed, inconsistencies in Babis's story began to emerge. The police, while initially focused on finding the intruders, started to notice that certain aspects of Babis's account didn't quite add up. For example, the way he described the intruder's entry into the house didn't match the physical evidence at the scene. The supposed entry point through the basement window showed no signs of forced entry, and there were no fingerprints or DNA evidence left behind by the intruders. Additionally, Babis's demeanor during interviews with the police raised suspicion. While he appeared to be grieving, his behavior was inconsistent with someone who had just experienced such a traumatic event. Some investigators noted that Babis seemed overly composed at times, and his responses to certain questions were strangely rehearsed. These inconsistencies led the police to take a closer look at Babis and his role in the events of that night. As the police delved deeper into the case, they began to focus less on the idea of a home invasion and more on the possibility that something far more sinister had occurred. One of the key turning points in the investigation came when the police decided to analyze the digital data associated with Babis and Caroline's devices. This included their smartphones, fitness trackers, and other digital footprints that could provide a clearer picture of what had happened on the night of the murder. The analysis of this data revealed several shocking discrepancies in Babis's story. For one, the data from Caroline's fitness tracker showed that her heart had stopped beating hours before Babis claimed the intruders had entered their home. This was a critical piece of evidence that directly contradicted Babis's timeline of events. Additionally, Babis's own phone records indicated that he had been awake and active during the time he claimed to have been tied up and incapacitated. The digital evidence also pointed to the possibility that the crime scene had been staged. For example, the police discovered that the security cameras in the house had been disabled manually, not by the supposed intruders, as Babis had claimed. Furthermore, the money that Babis said had been stolen was later found hidden in the house, untouched. These findings painted a very different picture from the one Babis had initially presented to the police and the public. With the mounting evidence against him, Babis's version of events began to crumble. The police now believed that there had been no intruders, and that the entire story had been fabricated to cover up a far more disturbing truth. The focus of the investigation shifted entirely to Babis as the prime suspect in the murder of his wife. Faced with the overwhelming evidence against him, Babis Anagnostopoulos eventually broke down and confessed to the murder of Caroline Crouch. His confession sent shockwaves through Greece, as the nation struggled to reconcile the image of the grieving husband with the cold-blooded killer he had now revealed himself to be. Babis admitted that there had been no home invasion, no masked robbers, and no struggle with intruders. The truth was far more disturbing. On the night of May 11, 2021, Babis and Caroline had argued, as they had done many times before. However, this argument escalated beyond anything they had previously experienced. In a fit of rage, Babis attacked Caroline, suffocating her to death with a pillow, while their infant daughter lay in her crib just feet away. After killing Caroline, Babis realized the gravity of what he had done. In a desperate attempt to avoid responsibility, he concocted the elaborate story of a home invasion. He staged the crime scene, tying himself up and disabling the security cameras, all in an effort to make his story more convincing. He then waited for several hours before calling the police, giving himself time to prepare for the role of the grieving husband. Babis's confession was a devastating blow to Caroline's family, who had already been through so much. They had believed Babis's story and had mourned alongside him, never suspecting that he was the one responsible for Caroline's death. The revelation that Babis had not only killed Caroline, but had also lied to them and the entire nation added an extra layer of pain to their already overwhelming grief. Babis Anagnostopoulos was arrested and charged with the murder of Caroline Crouch. The trial that followed was one of the most closely watched in Greece in recent years, with every detail of the case being scrutinized by the media and the public. The courtroom was packed with reporters, spectators, and members of Caroline's family, all eager to see justice served. During the trial, Babis's defense team tried to portray him as a man who had made a terrible mistake in a moment of madness. They argued that the murder was not premeditated and that Babis had acted in the heat of the moment during an argument with Caroline. They also attempted to present Babis as a loving husband and father who had been pushed to his breaking point by the stresses of his life and relationship. However, the prosecution presented a very different narrative. They argued that Babis had not only planned the murder, but had also meticulously staged the crime scene to mislead the police and the public. They highlighted the digital evidence that contradicted Babis's story, as well as the fact that he had shown no genuine remorse for his action. The prosecution also pointed to the fact that Babis had gone to great lengths to maintain the lie of the home invasion, even as the investigation began to unravel his story. Trial was a harrowing experience for Caroline's family, who had to relive the details of her death over and over again. They listened in anguish as Babis's confession was played in court, and as witnesses testified about the inconsistencies in his story. The emotional toll of the trial was immense, but they remained determined to see justice done for Caroline. In the end, Babis Anagnostopoulos was found guilty of the murder of Caroline Crouch. The judge and jury were unanimous in their decision, rejecting the defense's arguments and condemning Babis for his cold-blooded actions. He was sentenced to life in prison, with the judge noting that his crime was particularly heinous due to the premeditation and the callousness with which he had tried to cover it up. The murder of Caroline Crouch and the subsequent trial of Babis Anagnostopoulos left a lasting impact on Greece and the world. The case highlighted the dangers of domestic violence and the importance of recognizing the warning signs before it's too late. It also served as a stark reminder that the people we think we know best can sometimes be hiding the darkest secret. Caroline's family has continued to mourn her loss, finding solace in the fact that justice has been served. They have also become advocates for victims of domestic violence, working to raise awareness and provide support for those who may be in similar situations. Their hope is that Caroline's tragic death will not be in vain, and that it will inspire others to seek help before it's too late. Babis Anagnostopoulos remains in prison, serving out his sentence for the murder of his wife. His actions have left a permanent stain on his reputation, and he is widely regarded as one of the most reviled figures in recent Greek history. The story of Caroline Crouch serves as a tragic reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind closed doors, and the importance of speaking out against domestic violence in all its forms. As we close this chapter on the tragic story of Caroline Crouch, let us remember her for the vibrant, loving, and strong-willed person she was. Her life was cut short in the most horrific way, but her legacy lives on in the fight against domestic violence. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, please seek help. No one should have to suffer in silence. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.